Welcome to the Indie Horror Junkie Podcast. Tonight, you will be joining Rotting Ricky and Asylum Amy as they play host to some of the true movers and shakers in the indie horror scene. So lock your doors, check under the bed, and get comfortable, because here we go.
And we're the Saska Sisters. And this is Indie Horror Junkie! Indie Horror Junkie! Indie Horror Junkie!
Hello, Junkies, and Mr. Junkie right there. How are you doing, Lance?
Not too bad. About yourself?
Not too bad. As you can see, everybody, first off, I want to thank you guys for joining us again. This is episode 88. Is that crazy or what? I mean, we're just like rolling like a freight train towards 100, you know?
Getting close to the magic number.
I know it. Amy's not going to be with us again tonight. She should be back next week. So in her spot here is Lance OMG. And we've got a great guest with us tonight. We got PJ Starks, producer, and I'm told now actor as well. So I've got to go back and watch that movie now to see this very creative role. Can't wait to chat about that one. So we got a lot to go over with tonight. But before we bring him on, let's go ahead and do a little housekeeping as we usually do.
Yes,
as
indeed.
The guests start coming on. Yes. Let's see. First off, we have got, as per usual, we've got the clock. We always want to try and mention the clock. The clock is out right now on multiple streaming services. You can see it on Tubi for free. You can get it on Amazon, Vudu, or you can order the Blu-ray through indiehorrorjunkie.com. And the Blu-ray has a couple special features, including audio commentary from yours truly and our wild and crazy DP, Salo Zayas. And also has a little 45-minute documentary on an old-time radio show called Hickory Dickory Doom that the movie is based on. So definitely go out there, check it out. Drop us a review, help us light up Rotten Tomatoes, all that good stuff. We had a lot of fun, low-budget film, but we enjoyed it. Next up, we have Scaricon, which is another event that's happening this September 5th through 7th. Submissions are currently open, so if you have a short or a feature film, you definitely want to get it into us because it's going to be a great event. They've been running for a long time. They took a couple years off to revamp, retool, and now we are back bigger than ever. And Indie Horror Junkie is going to be there to run the film festival portion of that event. So definitely, if you have a chance, check it out. I also want to show you the special guests that we have lined up. We'll go through this quickly. We have, of course, the beautiful and in almost everything, Felicia Rose.
Yes, indeed.
Dave Sheridan from Scary Movie and Stream. We've got Daniel Roebuck, who has been in everything Rob Zombie's ever done, and also the Stream film. We've got the unbelievable Kane Hodder that everybody seems to gravitate towards, and I can't blame them. Can't wait to meet him. Phil Falcone, special effects genius. Can't wait to meet him as well. Then we've got the Posies. We've got Jesse Posey. And we've got Tyler Posey. I guess they're riding together, probably family. So we also have Eugene Clark from Land of the Dead. Can't wait to meet him. And here we go. Now we got Jonathan Stark from one of my all-time favorite 80s movies, Fright Night.
Yep, absolute cult classic.
Absolute. And then he's going to be joined by Stephen Jeffries, also of Fright Night. And then they're going to be also, as was just announced, joined by Amanda Bierce.
That's absolutely awesome.
Oh, yeah, can't wait. I've got to bring all my autograph stuff to be ready, so I'm extremely excited about that. So that's going to be September 5th through 7th. They're still announcing more guests. If you want to get tickets or, like I said, get your film in, the submission process is still open. It's nearing a close, so you want to try and get that in. And then for us, we've got the Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest, which is coming up in March. That one is held at MegaCon Orlando. If you've never been to MegaCon Orlando, it is an event that will rock your world. It's going to be me, Amy, I'm sure Lance will be here, and we'll be joined by probably about 250,000 of our closest friends.
It is awesome.
It's a great event, a lot of fun. Next up, we have the latest issue of the magazine that was released on the 13th of last month. It's out now, so definitely check it out. It's got a lot of great interviews, a lot of great movie stories in there, and the great cover from 259 from Cody that we had on here a couple weeks ago, not last week, a couple weeks ago. And so you want to definitely check that out. And we just announced the cover, boom, for issue 17. Normally we do these magazines every other month. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But what we do, being the true horror fans that we are, if ever there's a month in between that has a Friday the 13th, because the 13th is our release date, we always put together a special Friday the 13th issue. So June is one of those lucky months. So we've got a new issue coming out. That's got the cover right there. Paul Wiley, the composer of Stream, Terrifier, The Inn as well. We also have our Indie Horror Hottie, Brandy Roderick. And you can see on the right there all some of the other articles and stuff that we've got, including the Reels of the Dead, which I can't really go over right now, but we're going to make a big announcement here in the next couple of days. And then on the 13th, when the issue is released, you'll get the full article that'll give you all the juicy details. All right.
Looking forward to that one for sure.
Yes. I don't think we've got anything else that we really that's pending that we really have to go over. I do have one last thing I always try to mention because these guys are good people. Tarot cards.
Yes.
Tarot cards is a great app. Download the app. It's basically a trading card game. You get free downloads of all these different movies and their different cards, and you can collect them all. You can trade them with other people who have the app. It's such a cool little thing. So I try to mention that. The Clock is our film. So obviously they're going to have the trading cards on there for The Clock, but you've got a lot of other great films from Bayview on there. So definitely check it out. It's tarotcards.com. And like I said, it's a free app. So definitely check it out. All right. I tried to get that out as quickly as possible so we don't have our friend back there in the green room picking up all the snacks. So we'll go ahead and get him in here. All right. So as you may be aware, our guest right now is PJ Starks, producer.
Yes, sir.
And the reason I say extraordinaire is good gracious. Look at all the movies he's got coming up here. Look at this. So we've got a lot to go over in a very short period of time. So let's get cracking. So what we do normally is we go ahead and we show a trailer. This is one of the trailers for a new movie that he's got coming out called New Fear's Eve, which looks so awesome. We did a big piece on it in a previous Indie Horror Junkie. So I suggest you go out there and buy all the back issues just to make sure you got it covered. All right? Why not? All right. So let's go ahead and show you the trailer for New Fear's Eve. And then once it's done, he will be on screen and we'll go ahead and get cracking. Here you go. What a fun flick that looks like.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely something.
Yeah, we're very proud of it.
Oh yeah. When does that come out? Is that done now?
Yes. So it's been finished for a while. We've spent the last, I'd say, 15 months or so doing the whole distribution dance and holding off, trying to get the best possible deal we could get. Jeffrey Reddick, he created the Final Destination franchise. He acts in the film. He's also a producer on the movie, and he's been helping us throughout the post-production process and helping us get the movie into certain hands to look at. And thankfully, we've finally gotten in touch with a company we feel like is the right home, and we've been having conference calls with them, and we are what I hope to be weeks away from signing a distribution deal. And if that's the case, according to what they said, they plan to have the film out this year. So we're thinking, sometime between October through December. I mean, to us, that's what makes sense. Nothing specific was thrown out, but they did say this year. So it's, we're not saying who it is yet because we haven't signed anything, but it's a company that everybody knows, and they have theatrical releases. So
very nice.
We're super excited.
Now, any chance
about-
of a possible theatrical release, even like a limited run?
Yes, it has been discussed, but nothing is set in stone just yet. I'm kind of on the fence because it's like from a filmmaker standpoint, I'm like, God, it'd be so kick ass to have a film in theaters. But then there's the business side of me, which I hate the business side, and it's like, oh, the amount of money that they would have to pump into marketing to do like a whole major marketing campaign, and then of course we'd have, if if it's like 500 theaters because they do limited, then they got to make 500 DCPs, so there's more money, and if it does shit at the box office, then it's going to be like 70 years before we see any return on the movie. Of course, then there's. It's true that they might reap the benefits, but yeah, I don't know. So it's a double-edged sword. It's one of those things where it's like, if you don't try, you don't know. But at the same time, I'm like, it's a scary thought, but an exciting thought. So I don't know. It's a weird place.
Double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we've never so Eric Huskisson, he's basically my best friend, my producing partner. I say basically because I might get rid of him at some point. And
hopefully he's not watching.
So we're both. Oh, I hope he is watching, but he loves it when I say these things. But so Eric and I are kind of, it's an exciting time because there's a lot of things that have happened with New Fear's Eve that haven't happened with our previous projects, like getting nominated for a Fangoria Chainsaw Award, and it was on Shudder's live show that they had, and
wow.
I don't know, it's just been a lot of like crazy stuff. It's been a whirlwind, especially like when we did the festival run. I mean, it screened everywhere from Houston to Manhattan, Chicago, Indianapolis. It had a premiere in the UK, and we got to go we didn't get to go to the UK, but we got to go to quite a few of the screenings. And I'd never been to New York City before, so that for me, that was a huge thing. And I mean, that place is like walking around a big movie set, because it's like everywhere you look, there's there's something from a film. It's just been a really awesome time the last couple of years, all the things that have popped up since we made the film. And the film itself, the reaction to the film has been really positive. We had the premiere back in June of last year here in Owensboro, and I mean, we had over 600 people show up. Wow. And the line was like around the block. Jeffrey was there, so he got to watch the film with a crowd, and I mean, people were going nuts during the kill scenes, and there's a lot of dick and fart jokes and things in it. Some sequences are akin to something you may see in like the American Pie franchise. Nice. And so I mean, people were going nuts during those. It was just like a magical moment. It was such a great time, and it's just been crazy the last probably 3 or 4 years total, but especially the last couple.
We had the same experience at the last Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest, because we streamed a movie called Screamboat, and it's like we had on the thing all the way outside, and a full auditorium, and it's like with that movie they had a lot of jokes like that, like you're talking about, a lot of great
right.
The crowd was going nuts.
That's awesome.
So it was so much fun. That's got to be great for yourself, knowing that you were behind that and help bring that to life to get that recognition,
Oh, I mean, it's weird already just to like write something down. And then for me, one of the coolest parts is like seeing it become, especially like the characters or the situations become living, breathing things. And suddenly it goes from the page to right in front of you. And there it is. So Jesse McDonald is the actor who plays the doctor in the movie. That's the killer in our film, because it's a slasher film. Mm-hmm. And of course I'd seen him in the costume before, which the first time I saw him in the costume offset was awesome. Just seeing it come to life, because before that it goes from just an idea to then an illustration to then through the costuming, and then finally you see the whole thing put onto the actor. But when he walked on set, it was just like, it was just so awesome. Because at one point he never existed, and then you come up with this idea, and then I'm fortunate enough to be able to be in a position to where we were able to make that become, bring it to fruition.
So where did you come up with the idea for that character in the movie? Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
So the Doctor, it's himself. He's a hybrid between Jack the Ripper and a plague doctor.
I like it. I dig it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just so. I mean, part of it was thanks to the pandemic, because like when the pandemic happened, the plague doctor outfits and pictures and all that just started like popping up all over the place. And I remember sitting there one day and I was like, it's weird that no one's ever really used the plague doctor as a slasher costume. And it turns out they have, but not to the extent like that what we did with kind of like a whodunit slasher, Friday the 13th, or Halloween, like that kind of. So, and then I'm a big fan of true crime, and Jack the Ripper is, even though recently, it's like they came out and they said, oh, Jack the Ripper is this person. I think part of the mystique is that you really don't know who he is. So I've always been fascinated with just, even though he probably didn't look like that, but it's one of those things where Jack the Ripper, like when you see that turn of the century, the top hat, the Inverness coat, just the silhouette, you automatically know who you're looking at. So the look of Jack the Ripper is already iconic. So when you're coming up with an idea for a killer, you got to think like, what is stylized enough to look cool on camera, but isn't necessarily treading on something someone else has already done? Yeah. And then what are ways that you can make him iconic? And then just the mix of Jack the Ripper and the Plague Doctor, which a Plague Doctor is an iconic look because historically, but so just marrying the two together happened over, I don't know why I decided to go with that. It's just one of those things where, you're taking a shower and the idea pops in your head. It's just a situation like that. And then how he, based off of what he looked like, that's when his MO, I start fleshing it out, what he uses to kill people, start fleshing that out. And then a lot of those elements then help direct certain aspects of the story as I wrote the script.
Yeah, and to go back to what you were saying before about what an incredible feeling it is to know that you created something and then seeing it come to life. Me being a writer-director myself, I know exactly what you're talking about. Even to this day, after all the shorts I've made and stuff, I still get goosebumps every time I'm behind the camera watching somebody recite lines that I came up with or bring a character that I made to life. It's a whole different feeling, and especially with the clock. That was not a TV show. That was an old-time radio show that I first listened to back when I was like 12, that always stuck with me. And I always said I wanted to make that into a movie one day, and I finally did. So it's just one of those things that, 12 years old, I wasn't thinking I was going to be a director or writer. And then to see it kind of come to fruition, that's a feeling that's hard to explain to people unless you've been through it, because it's a whole different kind of cool thing knowing that I brought that to life and here somebody else is envisioning it for me.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where, and I know you can easily get jaded by the process. There's in a lot of instances I am, because inevitably during filming, there's a point where I'm like, I'm never fucking doing this ever again. I can say the F word, right? Sorry. I'm pretty good typically at not saying it, but I do say it a lot, probably more than I need to. But yeah, I'm just like, I'm never going to do this again. This sucks. It's just, why do I do this to myself? The stress, this is awful. But then there's this, your attitude completely changes when certain, moments like that throughout, whether it's the pre-production process or the production process, and then even through the post into screening the movie in front of an audience, it always wins over whatever stressors and things that you had during the production that made you hate the process or did keep you jaded by what was happening. There's always moments where the I want to be a filmmaker aspiring kid inside of you that's still sort of there will pop out and be like, this is it. This is the moment why you wanted to do this. This is, 20 years ago when you ran around with your friends with a camcorder, like these are the moments that you were building up to, and you cannot forget that.
Yep.
And honestly, it's hard not to forget that once you start living them, because they're just such like magical times.
Yep.
That, but then again, I've never worked on a studio film, and you listen to like George Romero and some of the other horror filmmakers that are like doing it the end. It's, like you were saying a second ago with Double-Edged Sword, it's like with the indie films, you have more control, but far less money. With a studio film, you have all the money you need, but none of the control.
Right.
So it's like that. They always get excited when they're like, yes, I get to make a studio film. Then they make the studio film, and then they're like, fuck the studio.
Yep.
I want to go back to having barely any money, but having all this fun and be able to make the movie that I want to make. So
I think it's well documented by a lot of directors and writers that like the studio stuff is never exactly the image that they had in mind when they were doing the film. I think Eli Roth just recently came out and was like, he wants to try and do his own, go back to like the more independent type stuff, because the studios, like you said, have so much control over what can get done, what they want to see, what they think audiences are going to like, which they're often wrong about. So I can get that. It's like we said, it's a double-edged sword between.
I myself have never understood that, because at the end of the day, the studio hires the director. Okay, they want to see what the director is going to create out of this particular material. That's why the director's name is the last one you always see in the credits, because you're supposed to be watching their vision. So if you're not going to let him get his vision across, why'd you even hire him? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're just going to chop it up. And also, how many independent films have you seen come out with a director's cut later on? You don't. That's normally the studio films trying to show you that, hey, this is what I had in mind. This isn't what they let me put out, but this is what I had in mind. And more often than not, the director's cuts are the ones that end up resonating with fans that much more. But to touch on one more thing real quick, like you mentioned about those special magical moments, one of the things with me is when I'm sitting in the theater watching like the clock, when I'm sitting in the theater watching the clock, I wrote the script, so I know all these little inside jokes and stuff like that I put. And that is a special moment when you hear people laugh at a joke that you wrote. You know what I'm saying? You're like, damn it hit. Somebody got it.
Yeah, it's funny, though, because sometimes you get the reverse effect where you don't get a pop from the audience, and you're like, damn it. Oh, they hate this movie. They're having a miserable time. It was funny because the first public screening that we had of New Year's Eve. Now, this was before the actual premiere here in Owensboro. Was in Chicago, the Chicago Horror Film Festival, and it's interesting to see the varied sensibilities of audiences based off where you take the film. Because I was like, man, this is going to kill in, no pun intended, in Chicago. This is going to do great. So we go show the movie, and here, real quick, I'll preface the story by jumping back real quick and saying this. My big fear about the movie when we were making it was that while it is a slasher film and there is over 40 kills and they're all practical and they're all really gory and a lot of them are really like elaborate and stuff, there's a 2-minute torture scene in the film, right? So like there is that stuff that, for horror fans, for gore fans, you're going to get all that. And I know a lot of people say, oh, this film has, our film has something for everybody. But like with ours, it really does. And the one thing that I was most worried about was the comedy part, because there are a lot of horror fans that don't like the mix of comedy with horror. And then the other thing is that the movie itself is very character and story heavy. There's a lot of story happening. Right. And I think you don't get that a lot of times with slasher films, especially like with independent slasher films. So my fear was that people were going to be bored to death watching the film, because when I wrote the script, I'd gone through a lot of really serious personal things. My couple of years before I even started writing the script, my grandmother had passed away. She's the whole reason I got into the horror genre. And then my mom got diagnosed with double lung cancer, and she would eventually pass away towards the end of production, like right after the movie was done. So I got to sit there and essentially watch her waste away, but I was there with her like through the whole process, trying to get her help and all that. So there's that. My marriage fell apart, and I ended up getting a divorce. And of course, we have children, so there's dealing with all of that. And there was just several other things that kind of happened that were not great things to deal with throughout the process of just living a life. And so when I sat down to write the script, my goal was to write something really dark and atmospheric and horror heavy. But the way I deal with serious issues is I make dick and fart jokes. I'm almost a one-trick pony. That's like, I don't know if you all are fans of MASH, but there's an episode where Hawkeye has this like existential crisis with himself, where he's like, do all I ever have to offer to people are jokes? So he tries to prove that he doesn't have to make jokes, that he can be very serious, and there's a lot more gravitas to his character. But inevitably, he just ends up telling jokes, and it kind of, so I have that every now and then. I'm like, all I really have to offer are jokes. So when I sat down to write the script, as I'm writing it, and this, having written a script, and it's weird. I'm not a big artsy fartsy filmmaker, but there's no way of explaining this without sounding artsy fartsy. But it's almost like a multiple personality kind of situation, that when you sit down and start writing and you get into your own head, it's almost like the characters take over. So you're almost not even the one writing anymore. It's they're telling the story, and you'll be going, okay, well, I know I want this. I want to start here and I want to get here. And as you're writing and the characters are kind of taking over and doing their thing, this line of dialogue will pop up that you weren't expecting the character to say. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I've got to go in this direction now. But inevitably you have to get back around to here. So it's like solving a problem. Well, how do I get over here? So when I wrote the story, I had a lot of really serious things I wanted to talk about because of all these life experiences that I had gone through. But I did it in a very comical way. So when I finished the script and I gave it to Eric to read, he called me when he got done, and he goes, man, this is really good, but it's also not what we talked about. So he's like, I was expecting like, atmosphere and tension and terror. And he goes, like every other line, I'm laughing. He's like, so he goes, there are a lot of those tense moments and things, and there's very serious horror elements and very serious dialogue and moments throughout the film, and a lot of character building and stuff. But he's like, dude, there's like so much comedy in this. There's no way that it's just a horror film. It's really is just, it's a horror comedy. Now it's mostly relegated to the dialogue. Kevin Smith is a huge inspiration on me. I've never met him. I've almost met him like 5 different times, but it's like five different times, but something always gets in the way. And it's like, it actually, New Year's Eve got into Smodcastle Film Festival.
Oh, wow.
And Kevin was supposed to be there, and we go and we sit down, and Kevin's supposed to stand up and like talk about it. Well, Ernie O'Donnell, who plays Rick Darris in Clerks, he runs the festival, which was a surreal thing all on its own. But he gets up there and he's like, hey, before I say anything else, watch this video and then we'll all talk. Well, there's like 200, filmmakers, artists, actors, screenwriters in this room. And, everybody's a fan. Everybody wants to meet Kevin. This video pops up. It's Kevin. I'm still in LA. I have COVID. I'm not going to be able to be at the festival. And immediately Eric leans over and goes, oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry. Which it wasn't his fault. I mean, it probably was. He probably sent Kevin a letter that had COVID tucked inside of it so he would get sick and then not be able to be there.
One of those good old-fashioned anthrax letters?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's this dust?
Eric is really like, he's Billy and Stu in one person. He really is. But no, so that's just the most recent I almost met Kevin story. But anyway, so the film ended up becoming a horror comedy because of the just the trajectory of what happened during the writing process, and because writers write what they know. So ultimately I'm like, fart here, dick here, There you go. And thankfully it worked out. I know I had an original point that I was trying to make before. I was like, I'm going to preface by saying this, and then I'll come back to this, and I don't remember. Oh, comedic sensibility. That's what it was. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is a rare moment. I almost never can remember what my original point was. So anyway, so we write a horror comedy, and my fear was going into is that people are expecting a slasher film, so it's like blood and guts and maybe some comedy just, here and there. But it's really serious in moments, and it's really funny in certain moments, or I would like to think it's really funny in certain moments. And then, of course, you have all the blood and gore because of all the killing. And so we go show the movie in Chicago, and we're sitting there, and the first joke, there's some, I won't say it's offensive humor, but some people could probably be offended by some of the humor. Look, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So a lot of the films that, I feel like cancel culture is kind of going to the wayside a little bit. So a lot of the more risque humor is kind of coming back. But I know that when I wrote it, I never wrote anything to like be offensive, but some of it touches on certain things or makes light of certain things that some people may not think should be made light of, but I think anything's up for grabs, but that's me personally. Anyway, so when Jeffrey read the script, that was one of the things he said that he loved about it most was that when I wrote it, like I wasn't afraid to touch on things that the studios are afraid to touch on. And for him, that was like really refreshing. So that was one of the things that helped him say, yes, I want to be a part of this, on top of like likable characters and so on and so forth. So going to Chicago, we sit down, we go to watch the movie. Right out of the gate is basically one of those risque, could potentially be offensive jokes. No laughs.
Ooh.
I'm like, okay, we're off to a bad start. And then, and you as the filmmaker, you're always in your head. So I probably overthought a lot of it, but I sat there through most of it, and the movie got laughs. The movie got really big laughs in spots, but like never in the spots that I felt should get the big laughs. It was like a joke that I felt should get guffaws, got silence. And then jokes that I felt were more throwaway got like big belly laughs. So it was confusing. But I sat there like, oh God, they hate this movie. This is the worst experience of their life. This is terrible. I want to be anywhere. I wish I was, because at the same weekend, it was screening at Horror on the Ohio, or at the Ohio, and Felissa was there. So because Felissa Rose is in the movie, and it's the first time that Felissa. Yeah, and it's the first time that Felissa got to see the movie in front of an audience, and she was telling me about it, and it was like a packed house, and she said they were going nuts and laughing at everything and all this. I'm like, oh, of course they were. So we're sitting there, and the whole movie, it doesn't feel like they're laughing at anything, and I'm dying on the inside. And there's this one sequence in the movie that's probably the most American Pie or Porky's kind of moment.
Nice.
And it's when you're in a theater with like 100 people and someone is doing like what you think is a hilarious sex act, and you could hear a pin drop in the room, so much so that there was a couple in front. I'm assuming they were a couple in front of us, and this girl leaned over to this guy and she goes, "What in the fuck are we watching?" and out of the corner of my eye, I see Eric do this, like that.
I put that quote on the DVD box.
Yeah, and he like sinks down into this chair, and I was just like, "Oh God!" So, movie ends. We do a Q&A, and it's funny because Eric said it's the first time he's ever seen me be negative, because I got up in front of the crowd and the first thing I said was, "Thanks for coming to see our movie. I'm sorry you all hated it."
Oh my God.
It was something along those lines. Because Eric says he remembers going, "Goon?" Like, why would you say that to the crowd? But so when the Q&A was over with, I sullenly went outside. I called Leslie, my now wife, and I called her, and she's insanely supportive. She's a driving force behind even pushing me to like go to all these different places and stuff. I'm like, you're cool with me with leaving again? And she's like, yes, I'll see you when you get back. You love this. Go do it. And so she's incredible. And so I call her and she's like a little kid. She's like, oh my God, the movie screened in Chicago. How did it go? How was it? And I was like, it was a disaster. I want to die. This is horrible. I'm going to kill myself. I'm never leaving the house when I come home. This is terrible. They hated it. Nobody laughed, nothing. And she's like, oh, that's horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, she's like, oh, like I get off the phone and this like group of people come over to us and they're like, you're the guy that made New Year's Eve. And I said, yeah, me and Eric. And they go, man, it was hilarious. And I loved this. And they're like, this part where they're talking about this serious subject matter, it's the highlight of the festival. And it like, I didn't know how to feel because it's like these group of people. I thought they all hated the movie. And it was like everybody we talked to had a very similar reaction when they were like, man, we sat in there through New Year's Eve. It had great insight on this, or this part was really funny, and the kills were so good, and the special effects, and I loved it from beginning to end. It got better as it went along, and I'm sitting there like, I felt like everybody had hated it. So I don't know, it was this really like bipolar situation where like, I guess I was in my head. I didn't think they were enjoying it, but that's the thing when during the parts that are real serious, everybody's sitting there taking it all in and you're not going to laugh because it's all the real serious character building stuff. So, I mean, you're not going to chuckle or anything, but when they don't laugh at a joke and it continues to be silent and then it goes into serious stuff again, it just feels like the tension is drawing out. So I guess most of the time I was just in my head, but when we went to other places, it was like what they didn't laugh at in Chicago, they laughed at in Manhattan, and then what they didn't laugh at in Manhattan, they would laugh at in like Indianapolis or Cincinnati, and but I don't know, the whole after Chicago was like I never got down like that again. But the whole experience was just really bizarre
at first. Getting over that like initial hump, like from Chicago was like the initial hump to get over, and then you kind of relaxed a little bit moving forward.
I think so. I think that I was nervous because like I said, I was worried that it was going to be too serious, or that people were going to have levels of expectation based off the trailer or just the title. Because it's a catchy title and it's got a killer on the front. And it's like when you think slasher movie, a lot of the time you don't think about like divorce or dying of cancer and stuff like that. So it's like, I mean, and I don't necessarily touch directly on those topics, but the movie itself, a lot of it talks about it's about relationships and how dynamics in relationships shift when change, which typically change is very serious, and something will happen and it completely shifts everything that's happening, and you have to learn how to adapt and find your footing again. So that's kind of the basis for the movie, and because that's really what it's about. It's about these three best friends and their relationship, and then suddenly things are going great, other than the fact that they have to go to this mandatory New Year's Eve party for work that they don't want to go to. And then all of a sudden, this serial killer comes into their life and completely upheaves everything and starts killing people they care about or destroying things that they don't want destroyed. And then they have to figure out, how to overcome these obstacles, which is, like not getting your head cut off. But it's also talked about in a very serious tone a lot of the time. And it's funny because during pre-production, so Dave Sheridan, which is funny because Felissa Rose and Dave Sheridan are both in the movie, and they're going to be at ScareCon,
right?
And early on, so Felissa and Dave also were producers on the movie, and they helped a lot in like the initial pre-production phase. And we were having a lot of conference calls with Dave, and it was one of the times that I got on the phone with Dave. He said, so how are we going to, PJ, when you market this movie, when we talk about this movie, how are you going to describe the film? So I'm like, it's about three best friends, and kind of what I said to you a second ago, and I could talk about the change and the shift and dynamic and all that. And he goes, are we making a slasher film or a fucking Wes Anderson movie? Like, what is this? He's like, this isn't Rushmore. This is New Year's Eve. You got to talk about the horror and the guts, and you can still talk about the serious stuff, but this is a horror film. Talk about it like it's a horror film. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But
we do have a couple comments on it for you here. Jesse Mack.
Okay.
He said you should have taken Chicago.
That's Jesse McDonald. He plays the doctor in the movie.
He goes, of course, the kills were good, he says. And then we have Salo Zayas, who is my DP for the clock, and he said, have you considered international audience? Didn't you say that it was going internationally or no?
So it did screen over in the UK.
Yeah,
I mean, from what they told me, because I would have loved to have gone to the screening.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's a long way, and I'd already spent so much money, like going to all these other places, including New York, that it just, there was no way for me to financially go. It wasn't feasible. So I did talk to those who ran the festival afterward, and they said that everybody really loved the film and it had a great reaction and everything. So I guess it worked with that audience too. I don't know. Humor's a different machine depending on where it goes in the world.
Yeah.
So I know that is what's funny for us is not always what's funny for them, but what's scary for us typically is also what's scary for another location or region of the world, and vice versa.
Well, and I would think based off of your inspiration for The Killer, it would probably do pretty well in the UK, since both of those things are kind of UK origin. Yeah,
that's a fair point. So I don't know. As far as, I mean, obviously international is part of the is part of the deal in terms of distribution, but what regions or parts of the world, we don't have any of that information yet. So that'll all be in the coming months. So, I mean, ultimately, once we sign on the dotted line, they're going to make the major announcement, and then we'll be able to start talking more
I'm
about.
Looking forward to it because it looks awesome, and
Thank you.
I'm a huge horror comedy guy. I love horror comedy. That
awesome.
Is by far my favorite subgenre of the whole horror aspect.
And the thing you've got working for you too, especially internationally, is you've got Jesse, because he's hilarious universally. So that's got to help.
He's look, Jesse, you don't have to lick my butthole. You're already going to be in the sequel. Wow. Don't worry.
We do.
There you have it. There's going to be a sequel, folks.
There you go. We let the cat out of the bag right here. You heard it here live. All right. We have one other question here before we jump into the next 3 movies, because we got 3 movies to cover in the next 15 minutes. So
okay.
Here we go. What is the costume made out of, and was it hard to make?
Oh, that's a good one.
Mostly fabric. So just basic fabrics. We went through. It's funny. We went through several coats. We got a bunch of different Inverness coats, and none of them looked right. And then I had this trench coat that I've used before in the past, and then I got with a seamstress, and she altered it to put the cowl and everything on it to make it look more like an Inverness coat, and then the rest of it was just finding the different pieces that worked, like the red vest, and then of course red surgical gloves are pretty easy to find. I would say the most daunting part of the costume was having the mask, because the mask was made specifically for the film. So we got with several mask makers. They sent us some mock-ups and prototypes, and we chose the one that we liked the best. And then what happened is once we selected the mask maker, it was Sean. His name's Sean Cowan. He's out of Louisville, Kentucky, but he ended up making it. And we wanted the mask to look like something that somebody could have made at their house versus, we didn't want it to look like they went and stole it from a Halloween shop or anything. So it's supposed to look like strips of leather with the metal beak and everything. And then the extra little bits, like the glowing eyes and everything, were just kind of like cool little add-ons that That was all a part of the original look and everything. But yeah, so I mean, it wasn't difficult for me because I didn't have to actually do any of the hard work other than coming up with the idea. I would say the person that it was most difficult for was the mask maker because, of course, we had to get with him several times and tweak it and have a little bit change here, a little bit manipulate this and that. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
All right. Well, let's real quick touch on one other movie here before we jump onto the main two that we want to chat about here real quick.
Okay.
We've got this one here, Halloween. That's going to have a release in the new upcoming, or was in the last issue of the Indie Horror Junkie magazine.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that, what the status is with this one.
Okay, so Halloween is still in pre-production. It's being done out of Los Angeles. Stephen Wolf and Tim Robinson is his producer. They're the ones who are in charge of the whole project, and I'm kind of just helping out in various different capacities. But it's a short film about like an estranged couple that ultimately gets stuck in a situation with their landlords around the time that there's a killer who's lurking about, and things do not go as planned. So it's, what's worse, the landlords or the sadistic murderer outside? And so it too is a horror comedy. And I've worked with Steven before, and he's incredibly talented. It was Dracula's Coffin that I worked with him on, and he's really funny and he's a good writer. I don't know if you've ever seen his previous feature. It's called Doll Factory, but if you ever get a chance to check it out, it's really good. So when he approached me and we started talking about the project and everything, he had shown me the artwork for what was going to be the whole concept really hadn't been done before in terms of like the Halloween. And then when he threw the idea out there that the poster was going to be basically an homage to Carpenter's Halloween, but done with a watermelon, I was like, I'm on board, because that's the thing. Like, and I talked about this recently with somebody the other day, but it's like, I say all the time that we're chasing Halloween because everybody wants that their Halloween. And in a lot of ways now, I guess the more modern version of that would be Terrifier, right? So like the Terrifier franchise. So now in a way we're all chasing Terrifier. So he had me sold on that, and it's a really good concept, and the script is really funny and well written. So that starts production. It'll start production this year, but they're still in the process. I'm helping them work out like the Indiegogo campaign, because we're going to be pushing that out in the next month or two. And so just, I guess if you're watching, be looking for that. It's called Halloween. Yeah.
Hopefully they'll read the magazine and read a little bit about it and check into it.
Yes, and thank you for doing that, by the way, for covering that.
We're here for you guys. So next up, we have The Last Sleepover here.
Yes.
I heard about this originally because one of our friends here is one of the producers on that, Louis Gallegos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he actually put an ad in one of the magazines for The Last Sleepover. So
yeah,
tell us a little bit about that before we get into the barn.
So The Last Sleepover, it's Greg Brock and Austin Rutherford. They wrote the script. Greg's directing the film along with Jason Crow. Jason Crow is also first AD on the movie, and it's basically about a group of girls that may have done something horrible in their past, and it's now 25 years later, and they're at their high school reunion, and things start going very badly. So the past may be coming back to haunt them. It's a slasher film, and it's got a super awesome character, probably I would say almost as cool as the Doctor. And the character's name is Scarlet, and it's portrayed by Charlotte Jen, and I hope I'm saying her last name right. But man, she is awesome. And I mean, so like Jesse, who plays the Doctor, Jesse also plays another character in New Year's Eve named Ned. Well, Charlie also plays another character in the movie. So is she or isn't she the killer? I don't know. We'll find out. But her as the character, she is amazing. She brings so much nuance because that's one of the things, like same with Jesse, like when you're in a mask and you can't emote, you have to use body language, and it's like acting is already really difficult. So when you're unable to use your voice or your face, it becomes, I would say, exponentially harder. So to take something and do what like Kane Hodder did with Jason and really make him not just a force where they're walking around and just standing in the room, but to actually make them a character where they have personality, that takes a lot to be able to do that. And Charlie did that with Scarlett. Jesse did that with the Doctor. And I was actually on set all last week for the second block of filming for the last sleepover. And the cast is solid. Everybody's really cool. They have an awesome crew. A lot of them I hadn't worked with before. Now, Jason Crow, I've known him for a very long time. He's actually in New Year's Eve. I've been working with him since 2014. I've worked with him on various projects. And The Boy from Below is another one where he was first AD. So that was like the first time that I got a chance to work with him where he's behind the camera, not in front of it. But he, not only is he a solid actor, but he is a solid first AD. I mean, he commands the set like it's like breathing. So he's really good at that. And it was really cool to be able to see that side of him, because I'm used to seeing like the goofy, laid back acting side. So to see like the more serious, just as stressed out as I am side was kind of refreshing. So that kind of helped us bond a little bit. And yeah, so I think the movie is going to be a lot of fun. The dynamic between the characters, the kills, the special effects team on that, Ruby and Matt, they're
now, there's
doing
going to be an Indiegogo campaign for that one as well, correct?
Yes. Thank you, because I do ramble. But yeah, they're actually the Indiegogo campaign is currently in demand.
Okay.
So there's still a whole bunch of like really cool perks on there that Felissa Rose is also in the last sleepover.
You don't say.
Yeah. It's the fourth movie I've been working with her on, and I'm sure not the last. But yeah, Lisa Wilcox was there because she was on set last week. She's super cool and she's solid. So yeah, it's just if you like slashers, and it has that 90s kind of revenge slasher appeal. That was one of the things when I read the script that I really liked and I gravitated towards. The slasher is my favorite subgenre. So if you send me a slasher script, there's a really good chance that I'll probably like say yes. And
just to be clear, this one's not a horror comedy. This one's going to be more primarily horror slasher.
Correct. Yeah, it's more of a horror slasher. I mean, as with any film, there is going to be some comedy in it, just because of the way the characters interact with one another. Especially Brittany Ann, who is right, her and Felissa, I'm assuming are like the dynamic they built, the rapport they built between the two of them on set it was so believable. So it was really cool getting to see the two of them act together, because you'd have thought they were friends like their entire life. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's if you get a chance, go check it out. It's on Indiegogo. It's called The Last Sleepover, the campaign. There's tons of perks, and of course, we're still trying to get some stretch goals hit. So if you want to check it out, please do.
Sounds great. Let's go ahead and jump into The Barn 3 now. Close things out the last 5 minutes. Now, Lance is going to be all over this one because he has seen The Barn 1 and The Barn 2.
I'm excited. The Barn 1 was great. Barn 2 was a lot of fun. PJ was in Barn 2. So I'm excited to hear that you're going to be a part of Barn 3. So yeah, please tell us about that. And I know Angel Bradford and Jessa Jupiter Flux are going to be in that as well, because I've been following them. Yep. And they're awesome.
As with the first two Barns, this one is another like who's who of indie film, not just indie film, but there's Kelly Maroney is in it, Courtney Gaines. We got so Eric and I in November of last year, we went to Pennsylvania and helped out on set for about 8 or 9 days, and that was during Courtney filming. And he's a super cool guy, and of course, he's he's a solid actor in his own right, and he does awesome in the movie. And it's just, so Cody Ruck is doing the special effects for that. And I don't know if you're familiar with Cody's work, but I mean, the stuff that he does is just incredible. And so all the kills and stuff that we got to watch while we were on set, I mean, just the brutality of them and just the visceral aspects, they were just so good. But if you're a fan of the first two, you're going to be just as much a fan of this one, because it's everything you loved about the other films and then more, because the one thing that Justin wanted to do with the new film was he did want to go a bit serious. So this one is, I believe it's like 10 or 20 years later. Don't quote me on that. Justin's probably watching this going, "You're fucking up my movie." But
it's down the road.
I'm trying not to say too much, because he has purposely like kept a lot of stuff under wraps. I would say the best way I could describe it is, for anybody who's not familiar with the films, go watch the trailer for The Barn Part 1 and The Barn Part 2, and then watch the films, and then you'll know exactly what you're in for, plus a lot more for the third one, because it's so monster heavy, this one, and the costumes in it are just that, they took it to 11 on this one with the costume designs and everything, and it's just and that was the coolest thing, was just being on set and being able to be there. There's a lot of long days and a lot of late nights, but it was a blast the whole time we were there, and we got to see a lot of really cool special effects.
And this one's
Eric
still in pre-production, correct?
Yes, and I was going to say, Eric and I may or may not make a cameo in the film, so you'll have to keep your eye out, even though technically I died in the sequel, spoiler alert. But yeah, so it's there's also a campaign for this one, as you were just trying to push me to start promoting. And
Absolutely.
Well done,
thank you for keeping me up. Yeah, thank you for keeping me on track. But yes, The Barn Part 3 also has an in-demand campaign, and we have multiple stretch goals that we're trying to hit. The most recent one that we hit, we were able to film in the Buffalo Bill House from Silence of the Lambs.
Wow.
And then who came on board? Felissa Rose.
Hey! How did you guys start without her?
Right. And then on top of that, we just announced that William Ragsdale is going to be in the movie.
Very nice.
if you're a fan of Sleepaway Camp, if you're a fan of Fright Night, then there is actually a perk on there where we have not shot their scenes yet. So if you're interested in being a part of the project, getting behind it, I mean, there's producer perks and stuff like that as well. But if you're wanting to actually be in a scene with William and with Felissa, that's on there. So there are opportunities, and they're limited. So once they're gone, they're gone. So you definitely want to get on there and check that out.
Is that perk going to be called the "You're So Cool, Brewster" perk?
It's not, but it should be.
It should be. Write that down.
It should be.
And we know one person who's going to like it already is going to be Dave San here, because he loved Barn 1 and 2, so he can't wait.
Awesome.
They're definitely
they're fun movies, and like I was telling you guys earlier, Dr. Dingleberry was the peak of my acting career, and I'll probably never get another role as good as Dr. Dingleberry. But the coolest part about working on The Barn Part 2 was being able to work with Diana Prince, and I have a great story, but I really can't tell it publicly, which I know could sound bad. But it's just that it's I'll tell you guys like off camera. But I do have if anybody runs into me in public and says, "What's your story that you can't tell on camera about The Barn Part 2?" then I'll tell you what it is, because it's not that I don't know. We'll move on.
All right, sounds good. So I was another, like you said, an Indiegogo going on that one as well. We only got about 30 seconds or so here, but we have a lot of filmmakers that watch. So how do you normally get your funding for the films? I like to try and ask this question for all these filmmakers. That's one of the main questions everybody has. Do you rely mainly on funding, or do you have like investors?
No.
Okay.
No, we haven't gone the investor route. For Volumes of Blood horror stories, we all the budget we got from local regional sponsorships from businesses because we did product placement. So we raised about almost $25,000 doing that.
Wow, that's
of course,
cool.
we have done crowdfunding, and then the funding for New Year's Eve was raised as a mix between product placement opportunities with the businesses and then crowdfunding. So
Awesome.
but we are going to look more into investment opportunities and stuff like that in the future, because I mean that's the inevitable evolution for doing it, because I mean I know Indiegogo and crowdfunding is commerce, it's goods and services, but sometimes I personally kind of feel bad because it's like you're just asking regular people to help fund your bad habits, and but I keep being told not to feel that way because it is goods and services, because they are getting something out of it. But I don't know. It's just
a lot of times, products and stuff like that you're creating just for those Indiegogos, and they're getting
absolutely
the credits and stuff like that. So these are things that the average person wouldn't be able to get. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely opening up opportunities for people who either are thinking about maybe going into acting, or maybe they don't think they would ever audition for anything, but they think it would be cool to go on set. So, you may not get the opportunity to audition and become a part of a film, but with something like this, through crowdfunding, you do get that opportunity. So, I mean, there's the good and the bad. I think it has to be done in the right way, with the right, under the right circumstances and with the right frame of mind. But, yeah, it can be good. It can be bad, just like anything. But I think you can only go so far. People who raise like insane amounts of money, it's lightning. It's just like getting successful films in the theater. It's lightning in a bottle, because not everybody can do it. It's a crapshoot every time. It's not a sure thing. And I think ultimately the way to go is to try to find people who do have the financial resources, who can get behind your project, and then you don't have the stress of having to go to not just total strangers, hundreds and hundreds of total strangers, but friends and family, and say, hey, do you have $20 you can throw into this? I think ultimately it would be easier just to go to a doctor who's maybe a little nutty and has expendable income and wants to be a part of a film. You want to be an
executive producer on my film?
Yeah. Do you want to be Dr. Dingle, Gary?
Oh my God.
So
where do I sign?
So yeah, I think
that's good. All right. Well, we're at the end of our show here real quick, but I just want to make sure that I let everybody know once again here, PJ Starks is the producer of all 4 of these films here, with The Barn Part 3, New Year's Eve, Halloween, and The Last Sleepover. All 4 of them are going to have write-ups and ads in Indie Horror Junkie magazine. All 4 of them are getting ready, if not already hitting the festival circuit, and will be put out there. I'm sure the normal streaming services and DVDs and Blu-rays. Is there anything else you want to let people know, like where they can find you, where they can check? Is there a Dr. Dingle Gary fan page that they can go to?
Just go to my. It's on OnlyFans.
There we go.
And I'm on OnlyFans and Grindr. You can find me there. Now, if you go to bloodmoonpictures.com, that's mine and Eric's company, Blood Moon Pictures. That's where you can find out all about our projects, our previous films, how you can check them out. You can contact us there. And then Eric and I are also very accessible on Facebook, because we're old school, or as some people like to say, out of touch. And that's the best way to contact us.
Right there with you.
And you can reach us and reach out to us there and talk to us. So, but yeah, and then as far as the other films, you can check them out on different various social media platforms. They actually have like Instagram and Twitter accounts and stuff. I commend people who can do multiple social media platforms. I don't know how people have time to do like more than one, maybe 2. But yeah, it's check all those films out, and thank you guys so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, like I told you earlier, don't go anywhere. We're just going to take you off screen, say goodbye, and then we're going to come and get that story. Sorry, everybody. So we'll get. I'm sure somebody somewhere will ask me the details. So thank you, PJ. It's been a great time. I wish we had 2 hours.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll talk to you in just a sec. All right, man. We needed 2 hours for this show for sure because I had so many questions I wanted to ask. But
we'll have to bring him back for another episode.
We have to because that was too fun. That was a good time. All right. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Lance, for stepping in.
No, I appreciate it, man. I really do.
We'll have you again in the future. Maybe we'll even have a show where the three of us will be on here. Who knows?
Hey, why not?
All right. But everybody else, please like and subscribe to keep us putting all this stuff out there. If you have anybody that you'd like to see on the show, send us a link or an email or something like that so we can chat about it and see. We're booked out pretty much up until I think August almost.
Wow.
But we definitely would like to try and get some exposure for as many people as we can. So between now and then, we'll see you next Wednesday.